Hello YouTube and welcome back to the nation of free to play. I'm Mr. Mondstadt and today I have another F2P Abyss guide video for you as the Lunar 4 Abyss just dropped. In this video I will talk about the enemies, the best strategies, teams and give you my tips and tricks to help you in getting 36 stars. Let's go! Alright, first things first, let's have a look at the enemy lineup. In the first half of 12.1 we faced the Perpetual Mechanical Array, an old familiar boss and no shill so far, nice. On the other half we get two Wild Hunt Exiles in the first wave and the battle-hardened Lightkeeper in the second wave. So much for no shill. In 12.2 the first side consists of three waves, the first of which giving us a construction specialist Mec and the other two are one Pyro Wyob manifestation each. The second half then is the local legend Cactus. So if you haven't guessed already by now, Inefa is rerunning. And in 12.3 we have one Radiant Antelope followed by one Radiant Glacial Wolf and on the other side Knuckle Duckle. Who could have guessed? What are the blessings? The active character's charge attack is increased by 75% on the first side and lunar reaction damage is increased by 75% on the second side. Cool. With that out of the way, who should you play? The first side is probably made with Noviette in mind, but also an on-field Columbina with Lauma in the party would fit the blessings. However, the good news is that you don't need either of them in order to deal with these enemies. There is surprisingly little shill on the first side and any meta team should be able to force their way through these bosses. The PMA allows for any element, and while the Wyops have 50% pyro resistance and the Radiant Beasts have 50% resistance to electro/cryo, nothing is immune, so I'm pretty positive that Mabuika, Arlecchino, Ressa or Skirk will find a way to deal with them. Another option is of course Nefer, even though the charge attack bonus should not really affect her damage number as these damage numbers count as lunar damage. However, for the last chamber I would recommend bringing a healer, as you need to heal your characters to their max HP to get rid of the debuffs caused by the Radiant Beasts. For the second side we have significantly less options available though. Obviously this side is both a lunar reaction and electro-charged shill lineup, which means if you have Inefa and or Flints, this will be a walk in the park. You can also run Columbina with Inefa and if you want you can add Kave and Amber and it will probably still clear. However, if you do not have Inefa or Flints available, what then? Well, don't worry, you can find a way around these mechanics. For the first chamber, you ideally want to be in Ascending Gleam as you will have to deal way less damage to these Wild Hunt enemies this way. If you do not have Inefa or Flints, you can run Lauma with Aino or Yehoda and play Hyper Bloom. I'm not sure whether Hyper Bloom with Aino will be enough to 3-star the other two chambers though, but you could simply change teams after. If you have Columbina, you can also run her with Aino or Yehoda and add Electro units like Ressa. If you don't have or want to play Ascending Gleam, strong meta teams should be able to brute force this chamber as well. I expect Skirk to get this one done, but once again, for the other two chambers I'd recommend some form of Electro or lunar-charged. Overall, Ressa with Farina should work, Noviette with Auron and or Fischl can help as well, and if you have C6 Ariron and very good builds, even a Taser team with Sucrose, Fischl, Xingqiu and Auron could probably clear, but since I do not have all of them at C6, I will not showcase that. Now let's have a closer look at every individual chamber. 12.1.1. The PMA is no new opponent, so I think we can keep this one rather short. This boss has a bit over 2.7 million HP and is more resistant against physical damage. One moment of silence for the one Eula main out there. Anyways, you just have to attack this boss until it will fly up in the air and enters its defensive state. In this state, it will summon 4 Ruined Sentinels. One of these 4 will have a glowing ring, which indicates that this is the one you need to defeat. You can ignore the other 3 as they will not take damage. Once you've killed the correct sentinel, the PMA will be vulnerable again, remains paralyzed for a few seconds and will also have 50% less resistance to everything. In this down phase you should be able to finish it and move on to 12-1-2. As I mentioned earlier, I do recommend Ascendant Gleam for this chamber. The reason is the Wild Hunt mechanic. The first two Wild Hunt exiles both only have around 400,000 HP, but if you are not in Ascendant Gleam, they will not die once you've depleted their HP bar. Instead, they will enter the grief-stricken state and recover to max HP. This grey bar now indicates their max HP and you have to keep dealing damage to them in order to reduce their max HP. During the process they will heal back up to their max HP, indicated by the red bar. Also, if you are not in Ascendant Gleam, the exiles will only take 65% of the damage dealt. However, if you are in Ascendant Gleam, not only will they take 90% of the damage instead of 65%, no, they will also directly enter the grief-stricken state. This means that you save the entire first red HP bar and you only have to kill them once. So in Ascendant Gleam, these enemies actually only have around 400,000 HP, but without they are closer to 1 million each. Once you've got rid of those, the battle-hardened Lightkeeper has a similar mechanic. This local legend has 1.6 million HP times 2. Why times 2? Well, because he has one human HP bar of 1.6 million and one Wild Hunt HP bar of 1.6 million. Whether you are in Ascendant Gleam or not, you will have to deal with the human HP bar first. However, after that, the Wild Hunt form takes over and enters the grief-stricken state. Now the same rules apply. If you have at least 2 nod-krai characters in your party, the boss will take 9% damage, otherwise only 65%. On top of that, you can directly decrease the grey HP bar, meaning the max HP, if you use abilities affected by Ascendant Gleam. This makes this boss way easier to deal with, as the Lightkeeper will summon Wild Hunt exiles during the fight and will heal back up by the amount of HP these exiles will have left when he absorbs them. He can only heal up to his max HP though, so if you can directly decrease the grey bar, he won't heal as much. Once again, if you don't have any nod-krai units, you can try to brute force it with a meta team like Skirk, but if you do have some options, it is probably faster to run Aino with Lauma or Yahoda just for this buff, get your stars in 12-1 and then change teams for 12-2 and 12-3 afterwards. Speaking of 12-2-1. The mech has 1.35 million HP and if you hit it with Numia twice, it will be weakened, but even without, it has no special resistances to anything and you can simply get rid of it. The Wayobs will spawn one after the other and both are Pyro, which means they have 50% resistance against Pyro and 1.35 million HP each as well. Anyways, when the Wayobs are summoned, they will steal your character's energy and get a white shield. White shields are immune to elemental reactions, so you can't melt or vape them. You have now 13 seconds to break this white shield, and during that time your damage is increased by 120% and Night Soul aligned damage is even further increased by 60%. If you manage to destroy the white shield in time, you will lose these damage buffs and get your energy back, which means you should be able to defeat the Wayob now. If you do not manage to destroy the white shield in time, the Wayob will then get an elemental shield instead and you have to break that one now. This shield will be Pyro, so Geo, Electro and Dendro are the most efficient elements against it, while Pyro, Hydro and Cryo are only half as effective. Once that shield is broken, you can deal damage to the Wayob as well, but you will not get your energy back. Since there are 2 Wayobs in this chamber, you have to deal with this mechanic a second time. Quick bonus tip: should you have some bursts available while the Wayob spawns, try to use all of the available bursts before the Wayob can suck your energy. This will help you in destroying the white shield faster and you will still get full bursts back once you've done so. Also, as mentioned before, if you are struggling with the white shields, Night Soul aligned damage is more efficient, so just check whether you have some Nutland units available. 12-2-2. Here we reunite with a local legend from the 5.8 summer event area, the battle-hardened Pippelpan idol, or as I like to call it, the Cactus with a hat. He has a bit less than 3.9 million HP and regular res of 10%, but his hats are the problem. He will summon 3 hats and hide under one of them. He will also keep switching the hats to confuse you, however there are ways around that. The correct hat will have a mustache and a yellow aura around, whereas the other 2 fake hats have a purple one. Anyway, the hats have around 40% of the Cactus max HP, and you want to break the hat the Cactus is hiding under in order to stun the boss and decrease his res. The hat's res is bad news though, as it has 135% resistance against every element other than Electro and Hydro. Also, the hat will record the damage it takes, and once you break it, the boss will lose HP based on that damage. For Hydro and Electro damage, this will be equal to 100% of the damage you dealt, but for all the other elements, only 12%. Plus, in order to stop the 3 hats from switching positions, you need to deal Electro-charged or lunar-charged damage to them. Oh, and the hat takes 300% increased Electro and lunar-charged damage as well, so TLDR, you need to play Hydro and Electro for this one. Once the hat is broken, the boss will appear again, be stunned, and its res will be decreased to minus 90% against everything. Now you can obviously bring other elements as well, but due to the hat's resistances, brute forcing this local legend will be very difficult. However, you do not need Lunar Charge for this boss, so if you don't have Flints or Inefa, you can still tackle the Cactus. Baressa is probably your best option, but even Forsters like Fischl, Xingqiu and Auron can prove themselves very useful. You can also run an Arlecchino Overwave team if you don't have a strong Electro or Hydro DPS. And since the Abyss blessings are buffing lunar reactions, if you ended up going for Columbina, she will feel stronger in this Abyss even without Inefa, because Columbina can convert Electro Charged into Lunar Charged by herself, which will get buffed by 75% from blessings. However, do not make the mistake and think that Lunar Charged is per se stronger of a reaction than Electro Charged. It is not, and does mostly do the same damage. It only feels stronger because Inefa is freaking broken. In this Abyss though, it should be actually stronger because of the blessings, so there you go. 12-3-1. In the last chamber we face 2 Radiant Beasts, first an Antelope and then a Glacial Wolf. Both Radiant enemies have around 2.3 million HP and the following mechanic. The opponents will cause your characters to continuously lose HP and reduce your incoming healing by 10%. On top of that, the damage you deal is also decreased by 10% as well as your crit rate. In order to deal with these annoying mechanics, you need to bring a healer. Once all of your characters have healed to the max HP, these debuffs will be removed and instead your crit rate is increased by 15% and your damage is even more increased by 50%. Bear in mind though that you have to heal all of your party members for that to happen, not just the active unit. So in conclusion, your healer needs to be a strong healer to out-heal the HP loss, and ideally it should be a party-wide healer as well. Single target healing can work, but you would need to swap into every unit for that. To be fair though, you don't have to deal with this mechanic if you can simply defeat the Radiant Beasts. The Antelope has 50% resistance against Electro and the Wolf 50% against Cryo, but as long as you have enough damage, you can also just brute force this chamber. And last but not least, 12-3-2. The last boss of this Spiral Abyss is Knuckle Duckle. This one has over 5.6 million HP, so definitely quite tanky. Just like the Cactus, this mechanical duck wants you to bring Hydro and Electro. Knuckle Duckle will get a shield, which will increase its res against all elements from 10% to 150%. That means that you will deal no real damage even if you bring Res Shred. When the boss gets its shield, it will also summon 5 mini ducks. And these ducks also have 150% res against everything except Electro, which is as effective as usual with only 10% grass. Your goal is to defeat these mini ducks in order to get rid of the shield and paralyze Knuckle Duckle for a short while. Now, what if you don't have a strong electro DPS? Well, since Raiden did not receive her Arcane buffs yet, I do feel your problem, but there is a solution to that as well. Once a mini duck took 10 instances of lunar or electro-charged damage, they will automatically be defeated. Yay! So the damage does not matter as long as you can trigger either of these two reactions. Each mini duck will consume 5% of Knuckle Duckle's max HP, and once all the duckies are gone, the shield will also be gone and the boss's res will be decreased to 10% for all elements. So now is the time to go all out on Aino's creation and ideally kill it before it gets its shield back. The basic strategy for this one is to deal as much electro or lunar charge damage as possible to the mini ducks in order to get rid of the shield as fast as possible. Technically you could also outweight the boss's shield, but this way your time window is pretty small and your DPS would need to be very high to still get 3 stars, which is generally very difficult on F2P level of investment. Again, you don't need to exclusively run Hydro and Electro, but units like Mabuika or Arlecchino could do very well in an overweight team once the shield is broken. And with that, I'm more or less done for the day. The Abyss trend continues. One side is rather flexible and you can basically play whatever you want, but the other side is tailor-made for the banner characters. I believe that this is one of the easiest Abysses if you have Ineffa and Flints, but if not, it can be tight in terms of clear time. Nevertheless, it is not as bad as the last one with 41 enemies and plunge shield bosses all in one chamber, so at least there's that. If you found this video helpful, please leave a like or subscribe to my channel. It is free and really helps me out in creating more content like this, as these videos can take a lot of time to prepare, record and edit, so thanks. Also, if you have any more questions regarding team building, rotations, etc., leave a comment down below and I will try to answer as many as possible there. Thanks again for watching and I will see you in the next video. Bye!